Hey, what's up, all my witches? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of The Owl House. This time it's Season 1, Episode 9, titled Something Ventured, Someone Framed. As we open up in the Human Appreciation Society with Gus presiding over the current proceedings, which shows off various different human artifacts and items. But everyone's kind of bored by it, as Gus has so many rules and regulations and this and that, only for the new kid, Bartholomew, which God, that's a terrible name. Your parents must have hated you. Why would you just add two different things? But he shows off some items that he says are authentic human items, which just kind of are labeled as such. They're not even what he claims them to be. And he's trying to usurp Gus's position as Human Appreciation Society president. So he's trying to muscle in on Gus's territory, with Gus's only leverage being the fact that he can actually bring in someone who can authenticate these items, namely Luz the human. However, Luz tells him, yeah, you kind of forgot about that whole thing about me being banned from Hexside. And, Ida's just kind of like, well, why would you even want to go to that stupid school? It's for a bunch of losers and dweebs, present company excluded. Well, no, she straight up starts kind of being mean to Gus, too, which is just like, yeah, Gus makes some terrible decisions in this episode, but don't be mean to Gus. Um, but Luz is actually kind of down on that whole idea of just whatever the heck side. She really wants to learn magic, and Ida really hasn't been doing that for her. She showed her one thing, and Luz has tried to do her best on her own, but nothing else has really come of this. However, Gus goes on to say that Luz's ban has in fact been lifted, essentially lying to her, which Willow calls him out on the next day. But Gus says that all he has to do is hide her. He's taken down all the wanted posters, and he gives her one of his old cloaks in order to hide her ears. Meanwhile, Ida kind of contemplates if maybe she's just using her own biases against Hexside and projecting them on Luz, feeling that's a little bit unfair. So I actually like this. It really does go to show that Ida genuinely cares about Luz. She has really come to just appreciate her over the course of how long has it been? Like a month that they've actually been there? So, Luz has actually really grown on Ida for the most part, which really appreciate that. I really like that they're really showing the depths of how much Ida cares about Luz and what she's willing to kind of sacrifice and compromise for Luz. As we see that certain guards have actually been put in place ever since what Luz did in I Was a Teenage Abomination. You have these guards who actually can smell troublemakers and take them to detention should they be found out. Meanwhile, Gus ends up running into Bartholomew, who continues to kind of just be a jerk to Gus, but his tone changes when he finds out that Luz is an actual human and can authenticate all of his stuff, only for him to notice one of the wanted posters, well, ban posters, that Gus dropped, hatching a evil scheme. Meanwhile, Ida arrives at Hexside, looking to make a difference. As Luz is thinking that her ban has been lifted, tries to talk to people and just, generally just wander around the school for the most part. So Gus forcibly takes her on a tour in order to avoid any trouble that could come from that. As Ida meets up with Principal Bump and talks about enrolling Luz in the Hexad, which he surprisingly is kind of down for the idea of a human exchange student at their school. However, the only the only reason he'll allow this is if they go over all of Ida's past misdeeds with a permanent record a mile high. So we get to see Heckside's what something ball field. I think it was like some weird ball game where you have to avoid being captured by a griffin or something like that. Is rugby ball, some weird thing like that. And you have to avoid being captured by a griffin. It's just very weird ass stuff. I have no idea what the rules here. We also come upon Willow's homeroom, and where she learns, also where Gus learns everything, where we actually get to see the Blight twins learning and show that they're actually fairly proficient in terms of illusion casting. And Gus, who has actually, we've come to find out, has moved up a few grades. He actually has one of his illusions taking notes for him, which he apparently does very frequently. He's just really that proficient. However, his illusion does have a tendency to kind of rebel for the most part. So he'll have to deal with that thing at some point. But they arrive at the Human Appreciation Society. Everyone's wowed by the actual human. And before anyone can inspect Bartholomew's stuff, he decides to make an announcement. He professes that all of his stuff is fake. He was new, he just wanted to make friends, and he apologizes, which everyone is very taken aback by and taken in by. They accept his apology and just want to be friends. They understand being the new kid, and they understand, wanting to just be liked for the most part. And everyone's on board, and it's a very touching moment. It's a really interesting misdirect as Ida ends up cleaning up all the hexed graffiti that she's put up that moves around when you try to clean it. She's not having a great time. So as the Human Appreciation Society is called to close, and everyone, Luz and Gus talk to Bartholomew and, about the touching moment, about just being friends with the kid. We come to find out that, yes, he did alert the authorities at Hexside and send them after Luz, who still believes that the ban was lifted, only for her to be taken away to detention, this gaping, monstrous maw that they're thrown into. And as Gus confronts Bartholomew about his deception, we come to find that Bartholomew was not about making friends, he's about attaining power. Gus's power. That's what it's always been about. He loves causing trouble, he loves causing drama, and he's a jerk, basically. He just likes being a little jerk. So Gus ends up pulling the alarm bell, having them sent into detention, which, yeah, it's just this hole of unspeakable horrors. And as Ida finishes up some more of the cleaning up a lot of the pranks that she still left behind, which, dude, this has been a while, and all of these pranks have just been sitting there that entire time. Jeez, usually you have someone clean all that stuff up by this point, and the fact that none of it could have been dealt with by anyone but Ida really goes to show just how bad all of this was. And when Principal Bum questions if maybe Ida's willing to give up at this point because they still have a lot left to do, Ida, seeing the friendship and bond between the students at Hexside with two kids teaching each other, she feels that this is a good place for Luz to actually learn and grow properly. Meanwhile, in detention, Bartholomew says that back at his old school, he was an expert in getting detention. And see, he says that if they follow him, they'll be able to get out, only for him to immediately be captured. And as Luz confronts Gus over him lying about her ban being lifted, Gus mentions that he only did it because he didn't want to be seen as lesser than. He's been moved up, he usually ends up being seen as just this minor person, and at the Human Appreciation Society, he could actually be someone of significance, someone of importance, but he shouldn't have done that at the the expense of his friend. And Luz forgives him for the most part. It's just, don't do this again. We're still cool. We're still friends. But Gus comes up with a plan, and it involves leaving no one behind, namely Bartholomew, as they go and find him cocooned towards the bottom of the pit where he's been, well, they it was in the process of brainwashing him into being a good student, which is, that's some effed up punishment right there. But as they're confronted by the forces of the detention block, um, Gus uses his illusion casting to create all these duplicates and friggin' shadow clones of him and Luz, which distract the forces of the tension, and they're able to climb their way out. They grab this giant bone, which I'm questioning where that giant bone came from, and they try to use it as a battering ram to get their way out of detention, just as Principal Bump and Ida have come to an agreement. While he will enroll Luz here, which he's very excited about. He really likes the idea of having a human there at Hexside. He mentions that he will not talk about Ida coming here or her involvement to Luz to the Emperor's Coven, as he says that he is not a stooge of the Emperor. He is principal of Hexside. This is his domain, which I really enjoy. I'm really glad that ultimately, despite everything, because he seemed to be pretty hard up on the Emperor's Coven before, during that whole witches duel convention at that episode. He seemed to be pretty high up on just loving the Emperor, but we actually get to see that he has some form of personality. He's his own person. He runs Hexside. That is his domain, and he makes the rules here, which I really enjoy. He really went up a few notches in my eyes with all of this. Unfortunately, at that moment, Luz, Gus, and Bartholomew break out of detention where Willow was actually just about to help get them out. So they break out. Bump is pissed because he's just like, yo, what the heck? My goodness, I can't believe it. Of course, a student of Ida would have done something like this. You're both banned. Get the fuck out of here. But Gus owns up to what he did. He owns up about, hey, she's only here because of what I did. I told her the ban was lifted. I did this in order to show off to the Human Appreciation Society. I'm sorry. Punish me. I'll take Ida loses punishment. I'll take it all. I'll take whatever you give to me. And so with this, you know, Bump decides that he won't punish Luz and that she will be enrolled in Hexside next semester. Um, and Ida tells Luz that she did this because she felt that Luz would gain a lot from going to Hexside. She would grow and develop and blossom as a person, and that is the most valuable thing here. She really believes in Luz. And I love this little aside. I love this moment because Ida really showed that she believes in Luz and she's willing to do a lot for this kid, even paperwork. And so Bump decides that since detention has been destroyed, the punishment for Gus will be to lose his presidency and lose his place in the Human Appreciation Society. He will no longer be a part of that, and Bartholomew will be president. So, as he has a few papers left to sign with Ida, much to her chagrin, Luz is shown around the campus by Willow and Gus, this time as a future student, leaving Bartholomew with his victory but unable to move. Meanwhile, we actually get to see a lot of the stuff that Ida had done. We come to find out that her full name is Edalyn Clawthorne, which I only knew because, this series has been out for a while and their name was up on the wiki, but, this is their first time you actually get her full name, Edelyn Clawthorne. She was actually on the potions track, and some of the stuff that she had done. Like, this stuff is a mile long. Like, unleashing ghosts in the girls' locker room who at first were just really kind of mean and just annoying, but then some Ghostbusters were basically brought in who opened up a portal to the ghost realm, unleashing ghosts and all that. So they probably should have called Danny Phantom, but he's on a different network. But that's literally the plot of Ghostbusters. Oh my goodness. And, we come to find out that she had actually unleashed some abominations because her sister's lunch money was stolen, and the abominations rose up against everyone, forming this massive abomination. So Ida, her sister Lilith, and the thief had to form an alliance in order to take them down, which, I could literally watch an entire series based off of Ida's past wrongdoings. Not to mention the fact that she had this fiery orange hair when she was younger. It's just like, that suits her way too well. It suits her better than I thought it would. She also, hexed the school bells to sing pop songs, and the only way that they could be defeated was if you pitted the bells against each other in a boy band off. Just really monstrously silly stuff. Like she unleashed two giant bug things on a class once just for shits and giggles basically. And she overfed the griffin for the rugby ball game on all these spicy snacks, so it just vomited all over the field. And just Lita's just reminiscing over all her past wrongdoings. And Luz is just like, yeah, you were a terrible student. I can't even believe this. But I love that. I would love to see like a spin-off or a mini series about just Ida doing her thing. Like, and her sister trying to keep her out of trouble and all that, and just this, that, and the other. Because man, what a fun time! Like what a wildly fun time. But it's just, I wonder if Ida's hair is gray because of the curse or just because she's gotten older. It really does kind of raise that question for the most part, at least in my mind. I think it might just be because of the curse. But find out later on in the series, hopefully. But this was a great episode. I loved just getting some more of Ida's backstory, and her relationship with Principal Bump was fine. The stuff with Gus was all cool, but you could see where that was going a mile away. That Gus would ultimately learn a lesson, Luz would have to forgive him, yada yada. But Ida's backstory, oh man, that could be an episode unto itself. Just really love that, really want more of that. I'm obsessing over younger Ida. It just seems like a great time, like Ida the Menace, Dennis the Menace. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you love to see an Ida spin-off of young Edelyn and her misadventures at Hexside? And what kind of mischief do you feel that she could get into? What do you think the worst thing Ida could have possibly done at Hexside was? Because I would love to have seen it, and I'd love to hear what you think it is. But tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below. If you liked this review, leave me a like. If you didn't, leave me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another The Owl House episode review. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Bye-bye.